Hi everyone. Right, who commanded a samurai army? Who commanded it? This is a direct response to Scott from Sengoku Studies video, and his video will be in the pinned link. Go and watch it because you're going to get loads of information. To help me out, get yourself a copy of the Book of Bushido or Tolkien's World, or if you love war, get out of war. So let's go war style. Right. First of all, we have to remember that when you're talking about Japanese stuff, you can't always hammer Japanese terms. So we have to find a way of translation that allows the casual reader, the casual viewer, an understanding. So who is the Lord of the Samurai? Who is the Lord? And what are the men around him? Now, normally, or across the board, there's usually a single figure at the top of a samurai army who has like the Emperor in Star Wars, and he has his advisors around him, his Imperial Guards and all that are all there, like the red crimson guys, and they basically are there to bodyguard him. But you also got advisors, and you get your generals like Darth Vader, and you get Grand Moff Tarkin who's there, you know, with his gone out doing this. So how can we translate all this into, like, you know, English understandable? Now, I tend to translate the head guy of the clan, whatever, as Lord, and the head of the army as commander. But sometimes the job is intertwined, and a lord goes out to command his own army. Therefore, you get the term Lord Commander. So I don't know if I've been 100% consistent with this throughout all the books I've ever done. I couldn't say for certain, but I've tried to stick to that general rule. So, and there are different names for Lord, but of course you also get different names for commanders, like the Shogun. You know what I mean? The Shogun becomes a name for a commander, and Shogun was not this single position at the head of Japan as it was in the Edo period and from the Kamakura period. A lot of the times in the older days, this is actually just who's going to be your general, who's acting as your Shogun. So this is where we have to be careful about using the Japanese terms because it all gets intermixed. But what we're talking about this month, so this is part of the monthly playlist for Japanese history in 2023, and we'll be working alongside the Shogun and Tadagenji. But basically, you've got a guy in the middle and the people who surround him. Now, the people who surround him, and you've got to go watch Scott's video, are called Hatamoto, which means origin of the banner, the position of the banner, the place of the banner, you know, where the banner is. And the idea you got to get is you're on a battlefield and all the banners are around, but normally you have a great banner. There's what banners called Matoi, Omatoi, the dragon. There's all sorts of banners, Sashimono. There's lots of different types of banners, but there's this central banner where the Lord is, yeah? And the idea is that this is the place of the banner, and around him are the banner men. Hata Moto. Hata means basically banner, and moto is origin, place of the banners. Okay, so you're on a crisp morning, the fog is there, yeah, the battle erupts and everybody's smashing into each other, and you can see just on the rise over there, because samurai armies tend to find a rise, or the command unit will try to find a rise in the landscape, and you've got two Hatamoto command groups. One here for the enemy and one for you, or maybe more where there's many. But basically, this is where I've translated Lord Commander, because he might be the Lord and he might be commander, or he's just the commander, or it might even be just a prince, if you like, a prince. He is the figurehead commander, but there's actually a guy, an old wizened like Merlin behind him, giving him the actual orders, do this, you know, and that's it. But he's got his Hatamoto around him. But how to translate Hatamoto becomes extremely difficult, because it's a case of, is it the bannermen? But bannermen are also that's you're going into the Game of Thrones world here, and bannermen also implies anyone who calls their banners. So the idea is that, you know, you've put out Jimbure, the orders for war. So it is like Game of Thrones, orders for war go out, the bannermen come in. But if you use bannermen, which originally we were going to do, then it means basically anybody who comes in samurai with a banner. But Hatamoto is not that. These are the bannermen who come to the position of the Lord, and while the others go to the vanguard and the flanks. So it suddenly becomes really confusing. And like Scott says, you've got to try not to mislead people, and it's really difficult. So I've tended to call the Hatamoto command, called it the command group. So you've got, you know, the Lord Commander with his command group, which gives them maybe a slightly better push towards the direction you're trying to imagine. But sometimes there was loads of bannermen. So, you know, loads of Hatamoto. So you might be like, oh, the command group, there's like 7 of them. But there might be hundreds, thousands of, you know, warriors on the field who are Hatamoto, who are not in the command tent. So then you're like, who are the command group? So there isn't really a great direct translation for Hatamoto. But I've stuck with command group and Lord Commander, because when we're looking at the field, you say, right, return to the command group. It's like, go there to the main banner with the banners around it. This is the Lord. That's where I'm going. I'm on the ridge. The dragon banner's there. Off we go. That's where I'm going. So, because sometimes the Lord might not always be there. There's Kagemusha, which is basically Shadow, and sometimes he'll swap himself out. And other times, the Lord Commander or the Commander will actually go with the Omonomi, the great Monomi troop, like 300 strong horses galloping out, and the Lord will be with them. He'll be like, right, I want to go there, I want to go there. While your Komonomi are further forward, really checking the nooks and crannies. But the Lord Commander might go with his personal bodyguards right out there, check, then return to the Hatamoto position. So the best feeling we can get is basically command group, but it's not perfect. It's not perfect. So Scott also brings up a really good point, which we've touched on a few times, but it should be more said in the samurai community, is the idea of military versus civil. Everybody gets the idea that the Sengoku period is just the war period, and the Edo period is the civil period. Now, there's more war in the Sengoku period, but actually, all of Japan is in the civil period. Sometimes you've just got jobs going on. You might go a year, 2 years without war, 10 years without war in the Sengoku period. So you just got to go across the bureaucracy of daily life. That's why a lot of the times when people say, oh, this is Sengoku period, it must be for armor, this swordsmanship. And this spear fighting must be for armored spear fighting. Whereas if it's in the Edo period, they're like, oh, it must be for unarmored. No, not at all. The Sengoku period doesn't mean people are traipsing around in their armour waiting to fight people. They're walking around in normal clothes. Something I hate about fantasy films and historical films is whenever you see them around the tables and everything, they're always in armour with helmets on. You're like, get it off. The best film for this is actually Excalibur, where their armour is only on when they go to battle, and it's brilliant. And when they're in court, they're all in robes and ceremonial cloaks and everything, and they get up, and that's... But for some reason, every other bloody film puts everybody in chainmail or armour all the time. You just wouldn't be like that. So you have to imagine the Japanese were like that. They're just in their normal clothes until, like, we're going to war. And even then, they don't put their armour on. They'll just put it in a box and carry it because it's a bit further away. So, to round up, basically, Japan is always civil, but it has military points. But yes, then in the Edo period, there are no wars, so we tend to be more civil. But it doesn't mean people are not training for war. Everybody forgets that the samurai that were actually in the Edo period did not know the samurai were going to be in an Edo period for that long, nor it was going to end. They, as far as they're concerned, their ancestors since the dawn of time have been samurai, and their ancestors after them would be samurai, and they were preparing for war. Whether they were good or bad, it doesn't matter. They were preparing for war. And the Lord Commander was the commander, or the Lord of the clan was there, and he had military personnel around him, known as his Hatamoto banner. He's the calling the banners. But this is where it gets confusing in English, because also the non-Hatamoto people came with banners. So when you called your banners, lots of people came, but only a small percentage of them were Hatamoto. Yep, so it gets confusing. Right, does that help? Please, please, please go and click the link and see Scott's video, because it's a bloody good video. And he's done it quite short, like this, a 10-minute video, so that's quite nice. And we're just waiting this month for Nojiri and for the Shogunate, but they're going to be doing it later in the month. So hopefully, guys, I'll speak to you soon. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Get yourself a copy of Book of Bushido, get yourself a copy of Tolkien's World, and if you really want to study warfare, get The Art of War, The Ultimate Art of War by me, Anthony Cummins. See you later.